Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Convex pre-recorded sessions. Will be followed in September by a candid session where we'll go more in detail in some of the statements in this presentation, which you might want to review. Let me first introduce myself. So I'm Dominic. I'm, as you can see on the picture, I'm a bit older than it looks on the picture on the slide. I've been working for several years, so more than 30 years in structured content from old times of SGML and workstations. For the last 15 years, I've been involved with data localization since I joined WHP, which was one of the providers of IBM, which was when they were setting up DITA. And for the last 4 years, I've been principal consultant for data localization with the company WHP. So a few words on WHP, so that you understand how our expertise was built. The company was incorporated in 1994, and it grew very fast and learned a lot with most global IT and software publishers, which were on the forefront of localization and the technology and processes. By 2004, a little bit incidentally, we processed our first DITA project since we were working with IBM, and IBM proposed a DITA standard in 2005, so we just worked with DITA a little bit prior to its standardization. From 2010 on, we have emancipated, I would say, and we began offering fully managed outsourced localization services for our customers and setting up technology and processes to manage completely their localization flows. And as part of this relationship, we started advising our customers on how to improve their content processes, and especially content offering and content model. And some of them required us to provide formal support beyond localization project. And we launched our consulting services with customers. Some customers were ranging from very large to small customers, from 200 technical writers to not even a full-time technical writer. They're operating in different industries, so some software publishers, medical device, pharmaceutical, industrial equipment, based in different continents, mostly North America and Europe, but some a little bit outside, and with different maturity levels. Some newcomers, but also early adopters with more than 10 years of data practices. So we want to share here a little bit in more structured way the experience we gained over the 4 years of consistency, especially with some type of customers which were the early adopters of DITA. So in this presentation, we'll first introduce what actually triggered this lecture. Afterwards, we'll see what I call the Next-Gen DITA. Then we'll talk about next-gen localization related to the next-gen DITA, and eventually we pull the success factors out of the lessons we learned. So let's go into why next-gen DITA. So as I told you, I'm working as a data localization consultant, either directly or within a team led by a general content strategist. Up to a couple of years ago, most of our customers were newcomers to DITA. They wanted to set up efficient practices from very beginning, and they were suspecting that their legacy process, mostly designed for FrameMaker, wouldn't work very well. Now, I'm often involved in projects with some DITA early adopters, which talk about times I don't even know 10 years ago with DITA. So very often they had embraced DITA long ago, and they hardly had no time since then or no budget to look for enhancement. So these early adopters have a very similar profile. They implemented DITA some 10 years ago. At that time, DITA 1.1 only was available. They were only publishing into PDFs. Sometimes these PDFs were delivered online, but not much more. They were producing large documents for all configurations, all audiences, and these large documentations were translated into different languages through long localization projects, very often 2 to 3 months. And maintaining these documents happened to be very time consuming because a lot of things were moving fast around these documents, and maintaining those documents was very, very heavy. So I believe this sounds familiar to many of those which are listening here. So meanwhile, while they were these 10 years where they operating the DITA instance, DITA world has improved significantly. when we attend 3 or 4 such conferences every year, I mean normal years, of course, not COVID years, we have a feeling it's not moving fast. But when we look backwards, where we stood 4 or 5 years ago, we can see that we maintain a rather good pace. So DITA has been growing for this last 10 years. According to our surveys, 15 to 20% more companies every year have joined the club. This growth has been fueling many evolutions. Meanwhile, data specifications were also enhanced, and especially with valuable features such as keys, which were introduced with DITA 1.2. We are now only a DITA 1.3 specification. So from external person, it could be seen as a non-active community, but for me, it's more a sign of maturity. When it was first adopted, the standard was already very mature. So it's still very alive, but not the specification have not changed, updated every day. Then, over these 10 years as well, a full range of offering tools and CMS were published with many powerful embedded features, just like a workflow, branch and merge, and like that. But also, new business models have decreased the entry barrier. So you don't need now to buy upfront servers and large software. You can rent it. You can upgrade it as you run. So it allows it really decreases the entry barriers for newcomers. Then the content is consumed through many channels, no longer PDF only, but it can be plenty of formats. So I mentioned HTML5, contextual help, dynamic delivery, chatbots, mobile, but there are many others, custom publishing systems, e-learning, machine-to-machine, so plenty of different delivery channels. And eventually, for these last 10 years, localization practices have evolved very quickly in both technologies and processes, but also thanks to the DITA market growth, specific DITA solutions were built. When these content managers or architects from these early adopters, when they come to one of our conference, benchmark their operation or watch webinars, they clearly have in mind what they could implement here and there. But they realize that all these changes are interrelated. When they want to have content more focused or more versatile, they need the processes and technology to support it. When the processes are more agile, localization has to be agile as well. If you want to improve the delivery, for instance, go to dynamic delivery, you need to improve taxonomy and metadata. When you want to improve localization, you first need to improve your content offering and guidelines and quality check. So all these features are interrelated. So they cannot, meanwhile also they still have to deliver the documentation. So they cannot assign as many internal resources to these changes as they would like. So this is the reason why many of these companies have initiated new DITA projects where all aspects are included into an ambitious project which gets financed, where external support can help the project team. They initiated a global project to improve all aspects of their DITA instance in a single project, which usually takes 9 to 18 months. Funnily enough, by the end of 2019, I was involved in 3 such projects, and all 3 projects were called Next-Gen. That's why I call it Next-Gen DITA. I think everybody will understand why. And that means that either we are lacking imagination or the name clearly identifies the goal of a project. It's a Next-Gen DITA. I think it's rather clear for everyone. So what is the goal of this project? Let's see what the goals are. So we'll now go into the goal of the project to see what and how this Next-Gen project look like. So when we view these next-gen projects, we realize, and there's no surprise, that their goals are very consistent. Only their implementation will change. So very first goal is that they need to address the current pain points, and they know them very well thanks to their practice. They've been operating a system for 10 years, and they know very well what's working well and what's difficult. Over the years, they had built manual process. They export, they import, checks, tracking, which very often rely on the expertise and availability of few people. The Next-Gen project aims at automating these processes and very often interconnecting systems which were working in isolation with product development, customer support, help desk, with country organization, with regulatory affairs when it's regulated industry. Some companies experience also heavy content maintenance because the information model was either too simplistic or even sometimes too complex because the rest of the world is going faster. Example, software is agile and in the cloud, with very often monthly releases, content points to other tools or sites which are often updated without notice. So it's very difficult to maintain the content. Very often, localization is far from being smooth, with very few but very large projects under time constraints because the product launch is already planned, and with thousands of queries addressed to technical writers. And its cost is higher than expected. We made a survey and we realized that because of localization, only 25% of the companies actually reach their data migration ROI expectation, especially because these early adopters usually didn't include localization in their initial projects. So these pain points are very often clearly identified and listed. When I'm first involved in a kickoff meeting, I'm often given a document with 20, 40 bullet points, very precise, things that the people would like to get improved. However, we have to consider as well some business objectives. And very often these business objectives and their corresponding targets are not clearly listed. Two of them are always floating around: productivity and time to market. I think everybody can agree on that. So when content strategy is reviewed as part of before this project, there's also a request to better integrate with our processes. As I mentioned, product development, marketing, customer support, employee, partners. Generally speaking, there's another wheel which is not clearly expressed. Is basically we've been living for 10 years with our data process, and we expect the new system to be future ready, and that this project will cover our future requirements for the next 5 years at least. But what is future? As someone said, prediction is very difficult, especially when it's about future. By essence, we don't know future, but we know some trends. M&A, new content types, new delivery channels, but we don't know everything. So that's why the target should be a renewed, clean system, fully mastered, matching the standard, applying best practices, current best practices, I mean, in line with the mainstream of data instances. Okay, that's enough of good words. Let's go into more practical stuff. We've seen that there were basically four types, four processes to review. One is a content creation, another one is processes, localization, and then delivery. So very often when these next-gen projects are triggered by technology, very often these next-gen projects are triggered by technology. Usually it started by an outdated CMS or a need to automate some processes. The main value by far of such a project lies in the content model and content quality. So new system is integrated with other systems: product development, labeling, user interface, third-party product names, websites, features, production and maintenance part numbers. We recommend to define what is the corresponding master data, who is managing it, and then to import them through an automatic conversion process, leading to a library of external data, which is concurrent into the documentation. That way, if the data external content gets updated, it automatically fed into the content without any maintenance. Sometimes specializations which were designed long ago are no longer relevant, while over the years, special processes were implemented which can be replaced by specialization or similar processes. I have in mind, for instance, the measurement unit conversions, which can be done this way. Then, long ago, the content was migrated from unstructured FrameMaker or other technology. Afterwards, offering practices were often built from this legacy content. Now we have new qualitative practices. It's semantic tagging with a rich data grammar, with taxonomy, with specialization, and with output class. So it's very important to improve semantic tagging of the content, taking all the benefits of data. And basically, we should ban the tags, the formatting tags like I, B, S, U. Those should be prevented. If the terms are special, they need to be tagged, they need to be printed specially. Why not say how special they are? So instead of writing something in bold, why not say it's a UI control, and then it's going to be printed in bold if we need so in the publishing process. So tag and keywords. You can tag the keywords and index terms referring to an offering glossary. You can tag with output classes as well to allow future processing. For more efficient content, to allow customers publication, maximize review, well-thought sets of conditions should be managed. You know that this content will be published in different, for different audiences, different products. So there should be a completely set of conditions to manage. future-ready content already means complying with current standards. So one of the new standards which is coming is ADA, Americans with Disability Act standard. It's about mostly alternate text for graphics and a few more requirements. So it should be included as well in the content from now on. We should consider the graphics and multimedia value in your information to maximize the user experience and build and update your documentation strategy. More and more we have graphics, more and more images, icons, and now more and more videos. This will have an impact on localization, but we'll deal with that later in the presentation. And eventually, I think it's time to improve the style guide. If this is not done regularly, it might be a good timing to organize peer review of the content and set up a collaborative process to improve the style guide and terminology, to make it consistent across the different technical writers and to make sure that this new style guide is localization friendly. Eventually, you have set up a new information model. So just like for newcomers, consider a migration process where from old content to new content and phase out legacy content as much as possible in an automated, setting up an automatic quality check. You can use powerful commercial product, but starting with Schematron is already a good start. Once the content has been improved, as we've seen, we need better technology and processes to support this content. Technology is often what triggers a next-gen project because the tool is no longer supported or because an upgrade is expensive. Because after a merger, company is maintaining two systems. Very often, it involves the selection and setup of new content repository, whether CCMS or not. New workflows will be designed to cope with requirements. And the good point here is that the use cases are well known. They are the current regular workflows plus all the pain points. So it's very easy to define exactly what we expect from the CMS because we know exactly what we've got and what we would like to have. I also believe it's the right time to consider content quality, process, and technology. It does not obviously mean setting up a costly technology, but very often very simple processes with peer review and maybe implementing some Schematron rules might help a lot. As I mentioned earlier, the DITA system will be interconnected. So reference content will be sourced from external content. So at that stage, when we set up a new technology, we need to set up the update and conversion processes with the connections with the other systems. And since the number of publications will certainly increase, we also need to automate the delivery channels. What type of content has to be delivered and how pushed to whatever delivery system or publishing system. So it's quite an important process of integrating this new system. When the documentation perimeter is increased, more and more people will be involved in the process, whether employee or external experts. These people will be new to DITA and might not even need to know about DITA. So we have more and more web-based offering tools, for instance, using forms or web-based review tool to be set up so that these non-DITA experts can work with our content. And then when I talked about future ready, I mentioned that by definition, we don't know the future, but we can already predict that the current trends will generalize. This will be the case for agile information development. My personal belief is that just like software development, information development, and afterwards localization will always become agile. If you're not working yet with information development embedded in the design team, don't change now, since a next-gen project requires extensive collaboration, training, and support within doc team. But in your specification and use case, just make sure it will support the unavoidable evolution to agile information development. Now, we've seen how content and how the technology processes would be updated as part of a next-gen project. Now let's see what's the impact on localization. Don't forget that the title of the lecture is Next-Gen Localization for Next-Gen DITA. So let's talk about localization now. So we'll review this. Okay, the business objectives which were set up for the whole new system, some of them impact localization, obviously. So we talked about productivity, time to market. These are obvious. Once again, localization is one of the main ROI drivers for a DITA project. So definitely productivity and time to market are related, impact significantly localization. Some might be more specific, but not clearly expressed. Flexibility, versatility, scalability is very difficult to define, but someone on a new system like that expect that it will allow to cope with something that will happen. We need also to set up and support the processes to support the next-gen content and processes. If you have some workflows in a CMS, if you have a new CMS, of course, you need to implement, to adapt the localization processes downstream to manage these processes as well. And then we need to migrate the content from previous information model to the new one, and former repository or process to the new ones. This migration shall only apply to English content. The best practice when migrate content to from one system to another one is to migrate the English content and to populate the new repository with multilingual version through a transition cycle using the transition memories. However, since in this process, we updated a little bit of information model. For instance, some text will be replaced by concatenate tags. There will be a slight loss of leverage, some 8 to 10%. By proper migration of the TMs, 3 to 5% of leverage can be restored. So let's see now how it should be changed and what changes in the process will require some tuning in localization process. First of all, when we improve the content and the processes, we have some significant benefits on localization. If you have a better content quality, less ambiguities, higher consistency, standardized style, consistent terminology, you will automatically get higher leverage from the translation memories, but also far less queries from the translators. These queries might have a large impact on the effort and time to market. Semantic tagging will give very relevant information to the translators. For example, when something is tagged italic, translator has to find out why. Then guess it is a document title. When tagged as a site element, it will save time and risk. If a title is in term-based or concatenate, under some conditions, it will be even faster. As I just mentioned, concatenating is a good option when it comes to localization. Translator doesn't have to know anything. It is always translated correctly by construction, and it can save 10% or more of the software, for instance, in the software user guide. When you set up agile information development, it's very likely that you will require agile localization. Let's have a look a little bit of a different localization model. There are three basic localization models. One is waterfall model, where the content and component are designed, the document is reviewed, approved, and frozen, and then the document is translated. That's the majority of the systems running up to now. Continuous model is different. The content components are designed and reviewed in sprints, in agile information development. At each sprint, the newly approved content is sent to translation. That's continuous localization. Agile localization is a little bit more. We have the same continuous localization model. At each sprint, the content is sent, but the translation of this content is delivered within the same sprint. So that at any moment, the translation is up to date. It's at least at maximum 1 week later compared to the information system. So when we work to agile localization, there are less conflicts on reuse. There's a typical conflict in reuse we have in localization is as follows. Topic A is sent to translation as part of package 1. Topic A is reused in document 2, which is urgent. Now you've got two options. Wait for the first large document to be back, or resend the topic A as part of package 2 and pay twice and get inconsistent translation. So this is a very common conflict. If you work into agile localization, you don't have this issue because when you send a new package, all the topics in translation have been delivered back. So this is definitely a benefit for localization. But there are benefits, but there are also challenges. These challenges require a high data expertise from your localization team and even data-specific solutions. And these are definitely challenges for the localization industry. But in this localization industry, we love challenges, so that's great. I explained the benefits of agile process. But before you all jump into it, let's talk about the corresponding challenges. First, you need your content to be specially built for it, typically externalized in separate tables, as I explained. Then your content cannot be provided as a document with a reference PDF for the translator, but it's a set of topic with missing context. As a consequence, translators might be missing context. You will need expert translators and advanced preview features to cope with this issue. When we explain the value of conkey refs for localization, technical writers are so excited that they want to conkey ref many keywords and key terms. To some extent, you can conkey ref a full dictionary and you don't have any words to translate. They are so excited that they conkey ref all the keywords and key terms. Or they want to reuse a topic with different sets of conditions, like, for instance, product name. Unfortunately, grammar in some languages does not allow the same construction we use in English. Spanish, French, and German, not to speak about Slovenian or Finnish. Those two examples here will lead to incorrect sentences. When you say this vehicle is beautiful, if vehicle is a car, can be a car or a truck, it would not translate correctly in German or in French. If you use the same thing in conditional content, this either a car or a truck is beautiful, we have the same issue. It will not be correct in all cases. So these different options shall be addressed in your offering style guide with your localization experts. There are some solutions with certain sentence construction to cope with that, but we have to be cautious on that. However, the main issue is not there. The main issue lies with linguistic review process. I understand some of you will not do any review. The statement is, we are paying for an LSP for a good quality, linguistic quality. It's none of our business. There are two reasons why this statement is wrong. If you never check the quality, it will decrease. And when it hits, it's too late. And then the second reason is you cannot expect the LSP to know all your industry and especially your own lingo. So you need some point to give them feedback on that. So some content has to be reviewed, at least 10 to 20%. Your reviewers want to see a published output and not an XML content with tags. You do not want them to review the complete document, but only what was updated. You do not want two reviewers to review the same topics in different documents and keep changing what the other has been changing. And then eventually you want the translation memories to be updated afterwards. So you need to check with your processes and your LSP how this will be done. It's far from being trivial. At WHP, we have designed a solution to answer this request. So we republish a document in bilingual where the people can edit, reviewers can edit directly in the content as they see it. And it can be, it's a very, very intuitive and very efficient tool. But there might be other solution for others. So just ask your LSP and review the LSP what can be done. The challenges for localization are not over. There's a second slide, since the challenge to some extent outnumber the benefits. We have seen that many of these next-gen DITA projects are triggered by an updating content strategy. As a result, new media are often considered in the documentation. You have many graphics. To use usability, for instance, to increase the usability, icons and graphics are used in software and product labeling. Diagram in concepts, topics are often more efficient than text. Screenshots are added to software instruction. New customer-facing content, such as sales or marketing material or training, is now handled in DITA. And this new customer-facing content have a lot more images and graphics and icons. We also believe that more videos are added within the instruction, especially for troubleshooting or maintenance or training. Tutorials, for instance, can now be added to the content strategy and supported by DITA. So the way these graphics and multimedia content is managed, embedded, and referred to can significantly impact localization. There's no single best practice. You will have to select your process depending on your content strategy and your business objectives, and based with the support of your linguistic partner. And eventually, as I mentioned, don't forget the accessibility requirements related to graphics, which will be a general requirement soon. Okay, we've seen that the next-gen DITA evolution will bring important benefits to localization, but also add challenges. So how to best deal with these challenges? First, you should not let your project be limited because of localization. I've seen many instances where, because of localization, some architects were asked not to use conky refs, which is one of the best value of DITA, for instance. That's definitely crazy. And then I believe that based on the statements I made earlier, these advices I will give now are very common sense. Consider localization from very beginning of your project, even if you do not localize yet. If it's localization ready, it's going to be better content maintenance. Go agile. Its value is clearly worth on the long run, even though on the short run it might be more challenging. Review process and technology. Do not just consider the legacy process will work. Especially have a close look at the review process, which can kill your next-gen DITA project. Strengthen your localization management and outsource the execution. So the localization management is key, while the localization execution can be outsourced to any company, provided the management is under control. And then if you have content that you would like to manage in your overall content strategy, supported by DITA, do not hesitate to challenge the experts. This is how our industry is progressing. For instance, we have designed a system for managing tutorials in DITA and their localization, very, very efficient system for localizing tutorials. So that's quite, do not hesitate to challenge us. I mean us, I mean all the experts in this industry, not just WHP. Okay, it's time to wrap a little bit, and let's take the success factor out of the lessons. So I told you I was often involved in DITA setup with newcomers. Visita for newcomers are facing significant challenges: lack of expertise in the team, unclear expectation, and low support from the team with questions the need for change. In the next-gen DITA projects, on the contrary, we have a high level of expertise of the team. And very often the team is very aware of things to improve. However, the size and the ambition of a project is to be sold. Sometimes they see as a smaller project, for instance, upgrade to a new CMS, and they don't see the full scope project, which will be required for the next years. Some important things to be considered: the project leadership and management support, especially since the scope of a project will extend beyond the information development team. So the leadership will be important to deal, especially with the impact in the rest of the company, and sometimes reluctance to change, especially when you get to former. For instance, if you include marketing in your content or training in your content, you will have to convince the people in these divisions that it's worth doing it. Sometimes these next-gen DITA projects are not ambitious enough, and they are limited from very beginning to solving a few pain points, and for instance, replacing the aging CCMS. You cannot run the risk that your instance will be outdated in 1 or 2 years, while you will have to live with it for 5 to 6 years. It's why an overall approach should be selected with all your expertise in your team. Eventually, based on my experience on new DITA projects and next-gen DITA projects, I can clearly state that next-gen DITA projects are a real chance for the documentation team to get out of his closet, to lead a company-wide project, and to shine. This may be the best reward of such a project. And then, to conclude this lecture called Next-Gen Localization for Next-Gen DITA, I'm a little bit advocating for my industry. Consider localization as an integral part of your content strategy, even though it doesn't fall under your responsibility, even though your DITA consultants might not be at ease with localization. Get support from your partner if it's expert enough. So don't forget, consider localization as part of your integral strategy. So thanks for your attention, and talk to you soon at the next Convex Candid session.